Next on Meet the Farmer TV, local food comes to the University of Virginia Hospital.
Meet the Farmer TV is made possible by Planet Earth Diversified, Melly Productions, and Leslie P. Jenkins Photography and Graphic Design. Culpeper's Channel 21, helping to preserve the agricultural history of Virginia, and
In the Kitchen magazine, serving the community and everyone who loves good food.
Let's go back to the way, and not that it was too long ago, but it's a way that we know is healthier for them. It's going to be less processed. There's going to be less saturated fats because it's fresh, it's good, and it's simple. And once they see that, I'm pretty sure they're going to like it. Because when you give a kid a fresh bowl of raspberries that they just picked, take any kid to a place to pick raspberries or pick strawberries, they're going to come back covered in strawberries. And you're not going to tell me they're not going to have a great time, whether they're going out and getting their own apples, picking their own cherries or peaches. They did that, and they're going to want to help put something together. Whether it's just a simple dessert or just a little thing of getting the beans, they're invested in it. You're getting them interested in it, and they're seeing that it's healthy for them. And it's not that hard to do.
Yeah. You know,
one of the things Lynda talked about research. At the University of Virginia, our scientists, we have people who are actually doing research. Right now, we know there are compounds in broccoli that actually will lower your risk of cancer. Proven, published fact. It's good for you. We know that the antioxidant properties in fruits and vegetables will lower your risk of cancer. We know that the whole grains that you can get will lower your risk. It increases your fiber. And Lynda has pointed out, and when she goes and talks to people, when you modify your diet in this way, we know you are reducing the health factors that contribute to so many diseases: heart disease, cancer, stroke, diabetes. 4 of the top 6 killers today have major implications on what you eat. And if we can work with people at that, it's a partnership. It's working with the registered dietitians. It's working with Morrison. It's working with our faculty, our staff, and our patients. As an institution, you want healthy employees. Because if your employees are healthy, you're going to be able to keep your healthcare costs down. You're going to have absenteeism down because the employees are going to be here because they're healthier, they're feeling better, they're taking care of themselves. You want the patients to take care of themselves. You're not going to see them as much. So the whole idea, we talk about the idea of healthcare reform. Well, healthcare reform starts with the individual. And one of the easy ways you can start is taking care of yourself and putting good things into your body.
Prevention. I liked your comment about kids, and I know that everything I've learned about school-age children and having local food in schools and growing gardens at the school is that when children do participate, they have a role in, they help plant, they help grow, they help pick, they help prepare, they will enjoy it and they will like it. So the problem of picky eater kids, they just need to be exposed to it. And I think that the parents of these children were raised with the technological food system, and for convenience and for saving money. For some reason, we have the idea in this country that food has to be cheap. But cheap food carries lots of other costs, to the environment, to health care. That one is breaking the bank. And so when we buy something processed from the central aisles of the grocery store, and it's got lots of calories but a very low price, well, we're paying for that lots of calories are high fat and sugar, usually a good dose of sodium that we all don't need. So it's not cheap food after all. It's very expensive food that some of us have to pay.
One of my favorite lines from a movie was a young man was eating and his sister goes, "There's no food in your food." And I mean, when you look at a lot of the process, what exactly, yes, it says it contains this, but how much of that's really in there? I mean, and going to Lynda's point about the children, I mean, the kids will get so excited and the energy. And as adults, you maybe don't do that. But I mean, I remember about 3.5 years ago, Lynda coming to me saying, "I've got a great idea. Wouldn't it be awesome if we had a farmer's market in here?" And it's like, yes, and you can't help but feed off of the energy and the dedication that someone like Lynda's had. And you're like, it makes sense. I mean, it's an easy sell because, A, she's got the energy behind it, but then when the institution sees all of the benefits, it's really a no-brainer when you want to go and do something like this.
One of the many things that we're trying to do here at UVA Nutrition Services is antibiotic-free poultry that we serve, thinking about the social welfare, the people who raise and pick and harvest the foods, making sure that they are fairly paid, even if it means that the company has to pay extra to those workers, and RGBH-free milk, hormone-free milk and yogurt, and all the various things that contribute to a healthy food system. So besides the farm stand, we also have some educational materials. We put out the Buy Fresh, Buy Local guide. We have pictures of the farmers and their farms. We have information flyers that are posted for people to read about our social welfare programs and antibiotic-free poultry and RGBH-free milk. Relative to good intake of fruits and vegetables, it's interesting to note that this year, 2010, is the year that the USDA is once again coming up with dietary guidelines for Americans. Every 5 years this happens. It happened in 2000, again in 2005. So we're waiting to see what are they going to say that's different from 2005. In 2005, they said, eat at least nine a day servings of fruits and vegetables. And my feeling is that you can't really expect typical Americans to eat that many fruits and vegetables unless they pop in your mouth with flavor that you could only get with very fresh, whole, locally grown produce like we have right here. In the past, the phrase that we all went by was 5 a day. Maybe they thought that that's all people could handle. I think we ought to tell them the truth. What is it that impacts, decreases the risk of chronic disease? What is it that makes you healthy? There's the idea of reducing your risk of disease. There's the idea of just maintaining your health. And then there's the idea of optimum health, the most energy that you can have, the most quality of life that you can have. That's the one I want to go for. So I'm not going to mess around with 5 a day, at least 9 to 13 or whatever they come out with after the debates finished in Washington. The information will be available at USDA.gov. Look for dietary guidelines. There are already reports out, but the definitive list, eat more of this, eat that, whatever, like last time, 2000, the dietary guidelines said, eat less salt. Then in 2005, it said, eat no more than 2,300 milligrams of sodium a day. This year, it could go down to 1,500 for some people because of new research. So they base all of these guidelines on research and the current science. So in nutrition, we learn as we go. We don't know it all, and we've made lots of mistakes in the past, but, we go with whatever's current. The new research is what we go by. The guidelines may be to just keep your basic health, but I would say let's go for the gold, you know, go for the World Cup, go for the most possible benefit we can get from our food. The stomach can only hold so much. And, you know, the idea, oh, you can have treats, you know, the treats can get out of hand. And I consider these kinds of foods better treats and at the same time building that optimal health to be the best we can be.
Now let's talk to Dr. Sandra Amrita McLanahan about reversing heart disease with diet. Let's find out about the nutritional side of local food.
We're beginning to understand as physicians and in general, the general public as well, the relationship of lifestyle to health. There's now good research that shows the relationship of our choices in terms of our health outcome. So particularly the digestion is the central system of the body. We need to pay attention to the nutrients and also the way the nutrients are grown. And so we have body, the effect on the body. We have the effect on the mind. We now know that mind and mood and nutrients are connected. Then the effect on the spirit. We know that people who have contact with their spiritual self do better in terms of prevention and treatment of disease, recovery. And then nature, our connection to nature is very important because it helps in, again, recovery from illness. They found that even putting a picture of nature in your hospital room makes you go home on average 2 days sooner. So our connection to nature is very important, but particularly in terms of nutrition, we're paying attention to how our food is grown. That an average apple today has 60% less magnesium than in 1930. Magnesium is necessary to relax our blood vessels and help prevent high blood pressure and arrhythmias. And so now, in terms of mass growing of foods, only 3 nutrients are replaced to the soil: nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus. Whereas we have over 200 nutrients that we need from our foods. And so to the extent that we can raise organic food and eat organic food, we have a better chance in terms of prevention and treatment of illness. But also, locally grown food is very important because we have to think of the larger environment in terms of nature. We have to think about how far do we ship food, what kind of cost in terms of energy and global climate change and waste of resources. We could feed the whole world if we do things efficiently and if we make healthy choices. And finally, the 5th area is community. That it brings community together and to have local foods. It allows us to connect up to each other in terms of our work. And this is very important. Humans are very social creatures. We need to have social connection. This allows for social connection. It allows for the nutrients to be fresher when they're locally grown. And that's important because over time we can lose nutrients just by contact over time with heat and the degeneration of the food itself. So we have to pay attention to all these levels of our food choices. We've put ourselves at risk as a Western population because we got into the habit of eating differently than our genetic structure is evolved to eat. And so we're making choices that aren't healthy in terms of excess fats, refined foods, refined sugars, and these have now been fully, carefully, scientifically associated with both heart disease and cancer. Now that we're understanding we're not a body separate from a mind, we're a body-mind, and we are in fact a body-mind-spirit. Our spirit gives us strength, and it's not just that we have a heart beating, we have to say, what is your heart beating for? And the mind and body and spirit connection now are being appreciated in terms of health. And that's particularly true with something like taste, that we have to live a life worth living for, and That includes the senses, and the taste and color of food is very important for our digestion. We secrete more saliva. This assists in the digestive process. We are more attuned to when we've had enough. Fruit is naturally heavy, and so it will give a message to the stomach of enough. Whereas many of the refined foods, cookies, cakes, are light, and it'll take a lot more to give that heavy message that will then send a signal to the brain we've had enough. And we can eat them more quickly. So avoiding refined foods is a really important step. And when they're locally grown and full of the taste of ripening on the vine, they'll satisfy our desire for sweetness. If you take an apple and eat it, a well-ripened apple, it tastes, is satisfied. Fiber is there. If you take applesauce, even in a normal person, the blood sugar will go above normal and then below normal. While it's above normal, your white cells are less active to fight infection. That's why diabetics get more infection. If you take apple juice, it'll go way up and then way down. And if you take refined sugar, even higher and then way down. So even apple juice is not a natural food. An apple is a natural food. If we return to eating food as it occurs in nature, we have less risk for illness. And we can satisfy ourselves and help prevent. About 70% of Americans are overweight now, adult Americans, 70%. We have to start making healthier choices because just being overweight increases the risk of so many diseases. The high blood pressure, heart disease, the major cancers, arthritis. So we have an ability now to act preventively and to reverse disease once it occurs. I worked with Dr. Ornish, where we showed in careful scientific studies that heart disease could be reversed. So you can say to a person who has heart disease, you can reverse your disease. And we also showed that this is, there are 4 components to the lifestyle that were important for reversing disease. Number 1 was diet. That was nature-oriented, plant-based diet. Then second is exercise. We are a very sedentary culture. We have to include exercise. The third is yoga. We need to reduce our stress, and yoga is a great way to do that. And the fourth is group support. Once again, it's hard to have a healthy lifestyle on your own. So then he applied this to reversing prostate cancer and found that within 3 weeks there was evidence that the body was starting to turn off the genes that promote cancer and turn on the genes that fight cancer. And there's a wonderful new book called Anti-Cancer about this work. And Dr. Ornish has a number of books about his work. Dr. Neil Barnard has been on PBS a lot talking about his work. He has a book called Get Healthy, Eat Vegan. And it's about the research and support and nice recipes, easy to follow, about eating what we grew up thinking was a balanced diet, the 4 food groups. One was meat, one was dairy, one was fruit and vegetables, one was grains. This was not based on any science, zero science. It was invented by General Mills to sell cereal. So it was not based on what's good for the body. It was a marketing tool. We now have the new 4 food groups that are the healthy food groups too. Number 1 is fruits in their whole form. So 4 to 5 pieces a day. You don't have to be afraid of the glycemic index. It's the glycemic load that matters. How much work over time the pancreas has to do. Number 2 is fresh vegetables, 2 salads a day, 4 to 5 servings of vegetables, which will give you a different type of fiber and help the body stay healthy. Number 3 is whole grains. Avoid the white flour, the white sugar, which act like sugar in the body, white flour does, and again affect the blood sugar levels and our ability to maintain health. Increased inflammation, we now know inflammation is strongly associated with illness. So meat, dairy, and sugar, white flour all increase inflammation in the body. The 4th whole food group is what you want to do is get concentrated protein from beans because they give you fiber, they give you phytonutrients, they're low in calories, they fill you up. things made out of beans, lentils, dal, soy products. We now know that soy products are safe to use. The Journal of the AMA a couple months ago just showed that women who have had breast cancer who add soy to their diet are less likely to have a recurrence. So that's new information that's we can help prevent and reverse disease using soy. It helps prevent heart disease as well. And then modest amounts of raw nuts and seeds. Nuts and seeds have calcium, magnesium, fiber. They fill us up, but they are high in calories, so we want to have modest, small amounts. Rather than using the nut butters, which again would raise your blood fat level and interfere with circulation, we use the whole nut as it occurs in nature. And once again, if they're locally grown, they taste much more fresh, and we can support having a healthy environment as well. Well, the number one risk factor for illness overall is social isolation. This is the number one risk factor for all types of illness. When we feel isolated and loneliness, and Mother Teresa said loneliness is the poverty of the West. It's a deeper poverty than the material poverty of the third world. So our loneliness leads to bad lifestyle choices and also has physiologic effects, leads to chronic anger or chronic depression, which change our hormone levels for making us at risk for disease. So connecting up locally to the farmers who are out in the fresh air and sunshine, sharing their experience, because as humans we need fresh air and sunshine. We now know that vitamin D plays a big role in prevention of disease, so we need to get out in the sun a certain amount of time per day to get our natural vitamin D. And getting in the sun to get your vitamin D, as opposed to taking a vitamin D supplement, the body can adjust its vitamin D level. So it's better if you have that opportunity, and then you can use supplements as needed. Once again, it's better to eat the whole fresh fruit and vegetables than to take supplements to try to make yourself healthy, because of all the nutrients we haven't discovered, all the minor trace nutrients that the body uses to help adjust its health. Well, I think what we want to do is look at the most aerial view of health. We want to look at our global choices. And now that we know things like the danger of certain choices that we make, such as the Gulf oil spill or some other environmental impact of the choices, we really want to say, okay, how can we keep our planet Earth healthy? And that impacts our own individual health. And so we need to pay attention to our farmers, to encourage them to grow organic, to have that connection of community for our own safety, because love heals. Love heals. It helps prevention and it helps cure. And this is really about making the human journey, which we're all on together, and our human Earth planet, we're all on together, full of love. And it can be. Every time we buy a particular food, we vote for more of that. Now, it's not as if the industry of food in this country is trying to deceive us, maybe sometimes, but they want to supply us what we will buy. So we as consumers need to educate ourselves about what's right to purchase. And then we vote every time we buy that, we get more of that. So we want to make the effort to buy organic, because it's so important for our planet. It's so important for our own individual health. The food is more healthy. The environment is more healthy. We keep ourselves safe if we make the effort to purchase local organic food. It's like anything. Whatever we purchase is going to be more encouraged to be done. And so when we make the effort to purchase these organic foods, the farmers will be empowered to do this. It's difficult now for many of them to go through the effort of organic. But if they know they're going to sell their produce, if they're going to sell what they're doing, then they'll be encouraged and supported to make the effort to do this. And this is very important for our planet, for our personal health, for the safety of our children. We have in this country an epidemic of heart disease. Half of all Americans die from heart-related illnesses. Half of all Americans. It's more than all of the diseases combined. This was not true 100 years ago. In the beginning of the 1900s, it was very rare to have a heart attack. And so it's our lifestyle choices that we've been making over time that have contributed to the problem. So what we need now is to pay attention to those factors that have contributed to this epidemic. And we can, and I want to assure you, we can eliminate 95% of heart disease from our country. So much suffering could be eliminated by a vegan diet. This is the diet that helps prevent and reverse heart disease. We know this clearly now. And the second is cancers. We have an epidemic of cancers. Certain cancers are much more common. Breast cancer, prostate cancer, much more common even in young people. We can help prevent and reverse these diseases by a vegan diet. And this has been shown. And diabetes, our fastest growing epidemic, has been shown scientifically to be reversed in about 6 weeks on a vegan diet. Type 2 diabetes can be reversed in about 6 weeks. So we can eliminate the diabetes epidemic by changing our food choices. And it begins, the really exciting thing is it begins in a few days. You can feel the difference. So it's worth a try. Just try it for a week or two and see how you feel, because generally you can feel the difference. Everything in your body starts to self-correct. And it's not just quantity of life, it's quality of life we're talking about. The vegan diet, it consists of the new 4 food groups: whole fresh fruit, whole fresh vegetables, whole grains, and beans, modest amounts of nuts and seeds, raw. And so that's the new 4 food groups that make up the healthy vegan diet. It eliminates all meats, including eggs and fish. It eliminates all dairy products. We now know scientifically what's optimum for the human body. We're 95.5% genetically identical with gorillas. And if you met a gorilla in a dark alley, you wouldn't take time to say, but where did you get your protein? Sure you don't need some fish? They're all vegetarian, vegan. And so this is the optimum diet for our structure. And it helps prevent both heart disease, cancer, arthritis, diabetes, the list goes on. So if we make healthy, optimum vegan food choices, we keep ourselves safe. So the vegan diet, it consists of the 4 healthy food groups: whole fresh fruit in its natural form, not fruit juices, not dried fruit, not refined syrups and things like that. So number 1 is whole fresh fruit. Number 2 is whole fresh vegetables in their natural form. Number 3 is whole grains, and number 4 is beans, peas, lentils, dal, soy products, and modest amounts of nuts and seeds. And so that's the healthy food choices. And there are plenty of food choices within this range. Fish is not a health food because it still has a significant amount of cholesterol in it. Even though the fatty fishes have some omega-3s that allow them to move more quickly, beans have omega-3s in them too. Nuts and seeds have omega-3s, and they're better choices because any kind of fish still has some cholesterol in it. The cholesterol is a dense, waxy substance that interferes with the body's blood flow. We now know that within 2 weeks of cutting the lymph around the heart, heart disease develops. You've got to keep your lymph flowing well so your white cells can go and remove any clots. If you have dense foods there, and that includes cheese and dairy products, then the body can't do the repair work that it needs to do. So this is why we're safer on this kind of diet. The body can repair itself better.
I'm Michael Clark, your host for Meet the Farmer TV. Thank you for joining us for this show on local food and the UVA Health Food System.
Meet the Farmer TV is made possible by Planet Earth Diversified, Melly Productions, and Leslie P. Jenkins Photography and Graphic Design. Culpeper's Channel 21, helping to preserve the agricultural history of Virginia, and In the Kitchen magazine, serving the community and everyone who loves good food.